Welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show. Today I'm joined by Abisola Fagbiye, a customer experience strategy and Microsoft 365 productive consultant who help organizations build customer-centric culture, a resilient team, and smarter way of working. She's known for practical street talking, insight on customer experience, leadership, productivity, and digital transformation. Abisola, it's really an honor having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you. What was it like growing up?
A very convoluted way of how I landed here. I have a bachelor's in estate management, so it was quite a bit of construction then. And so that wasn't my first choice, which is what a lot of people in the Nigerian climb experience. So you hear things like you were given, So I did hop into estate management. My first choice actually was arts. I'm still an artist at my core. And then my next choice was architecture, which for some reason that just didn't work. And then the next best thing was estate management. So I did stay within that space. So it was a 5-year course. And from then I did work in construction. I worked in paint, did a bit of work around projects, everything that had to do with ideation to execution. I was a color specialist considering I did have an art background and I was still an artist. I was still drawing and painting at the time. So it was just natural that I was going to be a color specialist and everything around people choosing colors, the psychology of colors, around what was expected in their spaces. I handled that at the time before I moved on from that point to a bilateral trade organization and then into the tech space. So my very young background, it was I did dabble into a lot of things art related. So there was a bit of dance, there was drama, there was a lot of it that had to do with arts. There was ballet when I was in primary school. So there was a lot of art expressions that I enjoyed. When I was much older and I could decide which one I was leaning to, it now became charcoal and pastel, then a bit of acrylic. I don't like acrylic too much because of how it smells, but then I was very comfortable with charcoal and pastel. So I did that for a bit before moving on to other things.
Wow. Amazing. Thanks for sharing, episode. Like, this is really lovely. Okay. So before you dive into our CS strategy, you work on construction sites and later in corporate or trade. How did those earlier roles influence the work you do now?
I like to say that at every stage or at every point in my career, the thing that has been consistent across board has been customers. I have always interfaced with them. The nomenclatures of the job roles that I have done have always been different, but the consistent thing has always been customer facing. So there has been customer facing in the construction parts where I had to manage projects. There was customer facing bits in the bilateral trade where it was B2B, but even in B2B, I think that whether it's B2B or B2C, you are dealing with people and people will represent whatever the thoughts or whatever the projection of the entire organization is. And then moved on to tech space where again B2B, but you are still dealing with people. So there had been that progression, but it's always been interfacing with customers.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So at what point did you now realize that, okay, customer experience was the part you actually wanted to focus on? Or is it more like the consistency you actually experience from various job roles? It's just something that happened. You didn't actually decide at any point that our customer is going to be what you're going to focus on. Or how do you now later come to kind of a major on it?
So no, there was no decision where I said, you know what, this is it. But it was me doing some introspection maybe about 6 years ago or so, where I realized that at every point I am interfacing with customer. It wasn't customer service. It wasn't me trying to pick up a phone and solve a problem or just sending an email. It was much more than that. There was a bit of content creation in it. There were many elements to that. And so it kind of helped me to go on a search to say, what exactly am I doing? And what exactly can be done here in terms of growth, in terms of more, because I mean, I would always want to reach for more. And so I realized that, you know what, there's a thing called customer experience. There's a thing, or a profession or a career path where people are not just picking up phones to talk to people, but looking at the entire holistic experience that, you know, whoever I'm interfacing with, whether it is B2C or B2B or any of those, And so I started that, and I did find that when I went on a search and realized that this is an actual thing. And one of those things in my search was the fact that there are courses and there are bits of information that I would need. And one of those was taking a professional diploma in customer experience. And I started that last year, finished that this year. So I've been very conscious of my path and my journey from over the last few years. But I kind of stumbled into it and I realized I absolutely love it and I might as well own it.
Wow, that was really, really amazing. I think there's a particular discussions how I was having with a client the other day that I was asking him more like, how did you come to achieve the niche? How did you come to focus on the niche you are? And I was like, uh, and he was making reference of the fact that after doing some couples of things, looking back, he can get to kind of pick, he got to pick the particular one he loved, owing to the fact that he have done the whole of several of them. And your story just more like speak volumes to it, to being that over time you're major in customer well, at one point or the other in customer experience and everything. And now looking back, you're able to kind of make a concrete decision, which is yeah, really lovely. And yeah, a whole lot of purpose for to being that is something you have majored in every now and then you come to love it. And this is really amazing. So what do organizations usually get wrong when they try to build customer loyalty?
So I think that there is that bit of chasing gimmicks, and I think we're in a season where there's so much happening. There's so many trends that are going on, and instead of just fixing or sticking with fundamentals, which would usually not go wrong, you want to chase those gimmicks. So loyalty isn't usually earned with perks. It can be bought with perks, but it's earned with consistency, with clarity, with solving problems without drama. So when organizations are just fixating on chasing the trends, and those trends will change and they change ever so often, you know, and not fixing the things or establishing those patterns that are important, that are consistent, then you would run into problems. And in a season or in a time when there's a cost of living crisis, there's a global recession on the horizon, loyalty is a very, very tricky currency because people will most likely look for the things or the solutions, products or solutions or whatever that will meet their needs at the best possible price point. And if they know that you're changing with whims and caprices, there's a chance that they are not sticking with you. They're going to move on to the best possible deal that they can find. But you are more likely to get loyal customers if they know that there is consistency, there's clarity. Even when things go wrong, there is clarity around how you are dealing with them and how you are conversing.
Oh wow, wow, amazing! Thanks a whole lot for that. And I think this actually more like bring up this particular question also. When you make reference of trends and the whole lot of businesses get to focus on it or into the various gimmick that's happening to internet. So what should be the balance between more like using trend and sticking to the rules? Yeah, what should strike the balance as per more like I work in this particular role of customer experience for quite some time now? What should be the balance that a business should actually more like put into place towards ensuring customer loyalty, but at the same time, not losing the core of what their company stands for and what they get to do?
Okay, so I will answer, I think this is a two-part question about keeping loyalty and about the trends. One is with trends, there's absolutely nothing wrong with trends. And businesses must understand that you can't move with every trend. There are funny trends that just do not align with your brand that you should avoid at all costs. Right? It would erode all of the brand equity and things like that that you have built over the years if you jump on such trends. They do not go with what you stand for. Now, when you do find trends that work, and I think it was Zara also, the social media manager that was at Duolingo that kind of revamped the entire Duolingo experience that joined them in 2020. She's moved on right now to DoorDash. But she talked about, and there was a post that she actually put out on LinkedIn that she talked about trends, and the best time to get into a trend is usually at the beginning when it is just gaining momentum. When it has peaked and when it's dropping, it's just a horrible, horrible time to get into a trend. So there are times and points and seasons where you can pop into a trend that aligns with your brand. So if you get into the trend at the right time, you're gaining visibility. We can now start talking about awareness and looking at the customer journey, and one of the first being awareness and then going on all the way to purchase or, renewal. So if you are gunning for renewing or keeping your business as top of mind, making sure that people are aware of your existence or the kind of products or services that you do offer, then some trends are okay to jump on. Like I said, you can't jump on all of them. Now, when it comes to loyalty, and we're just switching that conversation to loyalty, loyalty, like I said, is built on consistency, is built on clarity, is built on even turning around bad experiences. And I think I have a post on TikTok where I talk about bad experiences are a good thing. They're absolutely a good thing. And they are a good thing because you can turn them
Yeah.
around. And so you're able to take something that most likely has caused churn. And because not everybody will tell you why they are leaving, disengaging from your products or your service, they will just up and leave. When you do have one or two people who are bold enough to voice out why, you must be able to take that on and turn that around and build that process back into whatever structure that you have internally. So when it comes to loyalty, loyalty is a lot of work and a lot of consistency to build to make sure that people who exist within the business stay within the business, because it costs more to acquire a new customer than to actually retain one. And then, you talk about customer lifetime value. So what is the customer lifetime value and what is the cost of customer acquisition? So when you think about customer acquisition on its own, your customer acquisition could be 5 to 6 times more than what it will cost to actually keep a customer, and then look at what their lifetime value is. Loyalty is absolutely important because it actually keeps people with you. It doesn't cost you more to get more and to get new customers. You will be in making sure that you are keeping those customers within your space, within your system. When you do churn and when people leave, it isn't because you have disappointed them. And even if you have, you've turned it around. It will be because they've moved on from one season of life to another where your products and your services are no more meeting those needs, and they now need to move on to other things. So if you think about it that way, when you think about loyalty, is extremely holistic because you structure it in such a way that you are consistent. You're not flimsy. Like I said, you're not just chasing trends, but you are grounded in making sure that you are meeting all of the needs of your customers, not their wants, not just because they've said something and because you think that they're always right, but actually meeting the needs that exist within the confines of the business that you operate.
Wow, wow. This is really amazing. Thanks a whole lot for the robot answer, Abisola. Yeah, thank you. So many business have this policy, but no real culture. How can leaders start building a genuine customer centric culture?
Culture. I like that we're moving into culture. Culture really is, especially in organizations, is the thing that is rewarded from the top down. So if it's a dog eat dog kind of space from the top down, you will see that that trickles into everything that people do. Now, when we talk about culture and customer experience, culture internally also has to do with EX, which is employee experience, right? So businesses have policies, but in some way they would have culture. And I think that you really can't have a place that doesn't have culture. It might be a culture that you don't agree with, but there will be culture. So every business, every space, I mean, you go into families, every family has their culture. You go into countries, there's a culture of that country that you go into. You go into organizations, there would always be culture. But like I said, there might be some that you don't agree with, and there might be others that you do agree with. Now, when you start building a culture that is genuinely customer centric, one of the first things is to strengthen the employee experience, because you usually will find that employees who are satisfied are able to exude a customer centric culture. That's one. Now, I've seen that happen even personally in places I have worked, places where you are extremely proud to be part of the business. You are proud to fly the flag. It shows in how you communicate with the customer. It shows in how you do things. It shows and it reflects in the processes that are built. And even when in some places there might be processes that are haphazard, you do not want to transfer that to the customer. So when we now talk about culture, one, you want to make sure that the employee experience is great, and there are many ways to make sure that that is great. And different countries, different climes would have different ways of making sure that the employee experience is fantastic. I mean, it can be from transparent salaries to someone yesterday that I found very fascinating, where you are paid by, there was something around a mile payment in terms of distance to work, because it was expected that people work, say, come to the office 4 or 5 days a week, but they were incentivizing people to live 15, 30 minutes away from work. And so they were going to pay people by the mile just so that they live, within a certain proximity. You have all sorts of things that are coming up in terms of incentivizing people. So employee experience, one, the incentives that exist. So you want to rewrite incentives to make sure that you are rewarding a customer-centric culture. You are rewarding speed. You're rewarding accuracy. Now, let me say that speed is not just in, say, something very common. Somebody gets on the call to talk to you or sends an email. The speed in this regard will not be the quickest you can answer that email, which is important, but it will be the quickest you can respond and resolve. That's what we're looking at in terms of speed. So when you talk about speed in that regard, it's not somebody called and I answered it on the first ring, but then I transferred the person to another department. That person transferred it to 4 other departments before it was solved, right? That was quick in response, but then it has now been elongated in its resolve. So when you talk about something like that, you want to look at speed in terms of response and resolution. So is the bit of rewarding speed and accuracy. Now, you also want to reward transparency. You also want to reward honesty. So because culture as a whole is simply the behavior leadership reinforces, like I said, everything that is reinforced. If what is reinforced is people cutting corners, is shortcuts, then people will do that because they know that that's what is going to get them ahead. So the only way to kind of hone in a culture that is customer centric are the things that you reward. And what you reward is what is drained and drilled into the employee experience. And like I said, once the employee experience is fantastic, it's naturally just exudes into that customer experience that also would also be great.
Wow, wow, amazing. Thanks a whole lot for this. I think this just speak volumes. So the fact that some business might believe that, how will I make reference of this now? That they are still working around getting their culture right and everything. But they just speak volumes. So every company has more like a culture. Even if they didn't actually more like work on it intentionally, yeah, definitely there's definitely going to be unspoken culture that is still within
Yeah,
there, that everybody relates with each other, being
absolutely.
that is something that runs from the up to the down part of the company, to every sector of it. And yeah, it's really just people. And I think it's very, very key for every business to actually get to look at it and work on it. Because if you didn't work on it, it's definitely just work on its own. And it's going to be rub around every part of the company, and it just speak volumes to that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Thank you so much. You have also more like you are deep into productivity and Microsoft 365. How does inefficiency inside the team show up in a customer experience?
It's very related to the last question. So slow responses, repeated requests for information. So people have to repeat themselves. And I'm sure, I mean, personally, I absolutely hate that. And I'm sure if
Yeah.
you've had to reach out to customer service or anything, when one person transfers you to the next person, and then you have to start again from the beginning. So systems are not talking to each other in such instances, or where there's a lost handoff. So productivity issues really become visible to customers instantly when you have things like that, where, you know, that transfer of information from one person to the next, or from one party that should solve a problem for you, goes on to the next person, and then there's some sort of like a disconnect in information dissemination there. You also see that internal chaos can cause some form of external friction. Now, why this comes into play in terms of me being a productivity consultant in Microsoft 365 is Microsoft solutions exist within the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is very holistic, pretty much has all of the things you need. So in terms of CRM, in terms of sales solutions, call centers, there's the Teams calling and all of that. So there are productivity tools, and Microsoft has drilled down to make sure that there are tools for industries. So there's Microsoft Bouquet for, say, healthcare, for frontline workers, for construction, all of that. So there are solutions that exist within the system that help industries to be able to stay within, solutions that you have and do the things that they need to do. So you want to be able to take the solutions that exist pretty much and use them to the best possible way that you can. So my role essentially as a productivity consultant, more often than not, is really, because we don't sell licenses or anything like that, it's really take the solutions that you have and kind of amplify that. And so some of the things we do are pretty much on SharePoint, because we are SharePoint consultant and we are building things on SharePoint. So businesses already have SharePoint usually. And so what my role requires is to go in there and sometimes just train. You have it, train. It could be, hey, we are moving to this new space. We're moving to 365 from on-prem and we're moving to the cloud. It could be change management. How do we make sure that we are carrying people along? How do we make sure that there is as little resistance as possible, because it is human to resist change? And so you are taking in the fear factor that will be a constant and taking that and making sure that you can turn that around. So there are many elements that play around being a productivity person. And I do enjoy when I always have to train, because I do quite a bit of training. But then things like change management, and we're going to see that play out a lot again in this season of AI, where AI seems to be the elephant in the room, where people are resisting it because they are quite uncomfortable. I did read a report yesterday. I think it was, I'm not sure whether it was Gartner or Forrester, that talked about the fact that about 50% of people, 53% of people will opt out of talking to an AI bot in the first instance, the first couple of seconds. So they're not even going to engage at all. They're going to say, could you pass me on to a human? I'd rather speak to a human than speak to you, right? So we're seeing resistance in users. We're seeing resistance even in people internally. So productivity consultants in this regard can be part of making sure that there is as minimal resistance as possible and making sure that you are adopting those new solutions. Or even if you already have those new solutions, you are taking on those solutions and actually using them appropriately so that you are getting the best possible results. You are productive. Your 5 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours at work actually make sense, and you are not doing things that are redundant or repetitive. You're actually able to do the work that you're required to do.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abisola. Also, so what skills should young people learn today? They want to thrive in customer-driven industry tomorrow.
So it's a very broad industry. It's many things in one, and I'm sure I'm not an outlier when I talk about the fact that a lot of people who are in the space stumbled into it. Multiple backgrounds kind of merging and melting into this lovely melting pot that is customer experience. So there is design systems, design thinking within customer experience. There's journey mapping within that. There is training, which is a part of it that I sit on. There is also a bit of change management in that. There are multiple elements of the customer and the experiences that they have that sits within the space that is customer experience. Now, people will always talk about customer service and customer experience together, but they're more or less interchanging it, and it's not the same, right? So customer service, yes, it exists within customer experience, but it is just one line item of the entire whole. So you think about a basket of fruits, it is just one fruit within the basket, right? So there are other little fruits that are there. You have bananas and berries and all of that. So customer service is just one fruit that exists. So if you are already in customer service, you are sitting in one spot, you're sitting in one space within the system. And it's great if you can go on and be versatile and you can move on to other aspects of the entire customer experience. So from whether, like I said, from journey mapping to understanding how the system works. Some people are of the opinion that UI, UX, user experience, maybe not user interface, but user experience exists within customer experience. It's debatable, but I kind of understand why that will be said. So yes, user experience can exist within this space. So there are many angles to it when you think about customer experience. Like I said, it's not just a one-touch thing of service. It is the entire experience of people from the point where you're made aware. So there's also a bit of content creation that exists here in customer experience. So it is pretty holistic in all of the parts and pieces that you think about in coming into this space.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thanks a whole lot of that. Being that I think with the AI coming into being every day, and a whole lot of things are changing, a whole lot of our application and automation is actually coming into being. I think for new persons actually coming to be, there's a mindset that needs to be adopted for the ever changing technology and AI coming into being. So when it comes to this mindset shift, what was it like for you? Being that your background does not actually might not speak volumes to it, and the way you make reference of it earlier on, that's more like an outlier being that what you were looking for at first and what you came to do today was totally different. So if we were to say mindsets, what mindset do you think the younger generation should adopt who are looking forward to that particular AI actually coming into being every now and then, and a whole lot of automation, a whole lot of it coming into being. There's a whole lot of changes when it comes to this. So what would be more like the mindset shifts every young person should actually have in mind if they are looking forward to more like maximizing AI, looking forward to that particular feed, or doing a whole lot of outstanding things in space, being what they might get to study with, what they might looking forward to do will be different owing to as time changes, owing to the demand for technology and everything. So what mindset should they adopt towards more like for
You can't run away from it. That's the mindset to have. There's absolutely no way you're running away from AI in the next couple of years. It is going to take over quite a bit. But within the customer experience space, one thing that we have found is the fact that AI at the moment cannot automate empathy. Secondly, is the fact that the human element is still very important in the entire space. I think I posted something that CEO of Klarna put out to say that they were going to more or less half or more than half their staff and then automate that. And I think he put that out in maybe November. And 3 months later, he's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Right. Because that's not feasible. There are reports that say that people who are organizations who are very keen to do quite a bit of firing and then do that replacement with AI are going to, chunk that idea in 2026. So we're still seeing that humans play an important role in this entire system. We are the gods, they are the machines. We do the building, they do the automating, right? So, but if you think that at any point you're going to run away from AI, then I'm sorry to bust your bubble. That's not happening. We are going to see the infusion in everything, in every aspect of life. So we're going to see that in healthcare. We're going to see that in retail. We're going to see not just personalization, which is what we're already seeing. We're going to see personalization on steroids, which will now be individualization. So it is not just creating a customer persona. It will now be taking you and then also do some prediction. So there's going to be a lot of prediction in terms of everything. I mean, I can give you a few examples of what's happening in terms of AI. One is, and I think very recently saw that Tinder introducing AI into their space is going to have access to your camera roll. And so you have gone on to create a profile on Tinder to say, these are my likes and these are my dislikes. That might not be a true representation of who you are. But then your camera roll gives you more insight into your person. Yes, people have pushed back on that. But if, say, you like a certain kind of food or you like hiking, it's going to pair you with someone who likes hiking, right? Because it seems like, say, in the last month, you've gone hiking twice or thrice, then maybe you like it, right? Or if you like books, it's going to pair you with someone who likes books, right? So you're going to see AI in the most interesting ways So like an example of dating apps where people actually create profiles. So we're looking at, yes, you have created your profile, but now I'm going into an inroad into your person to be able to create a match statistically that will match your person based off on your likes, your dislikes, and your interests. So we're using all of that data from you, and we're going to find a suitable match for you scientifically with someone else who, syncs with you. It's sort of like your yin to your yang. So AI is something we cannot run away from. And so what we're saying and what young people obviously should be very excited to do and very aware of is, how do you partner with this? How do you introduce this and infuse this into the work that you're doing on a daily basis? There are things like AI assistants at the moment that kind of help you. We're already seeing things like summaries and all of that from tools like Zoom and Teams and the rest that happened a couple of months ago, even last year or so. But we will continue to see more and more. We will see AI play a very huge role, and it's a wagon that you cannot not get on. So don't call it a bandwagon or the bad wagon. You have to step on this wagon, whether you like it or not. It's the elephant in the room, and you must address it.
Yeah, so true. Thanks a whole lot for the robust lecture. I think it's very, very key that yes, it's the new normal. Every one of us must get to adopt and come to accept. If we are willing to actually do much at this particular age and time, and this is really reason. Yeah. So finally, Abisola, what is one thing every business, no matter the size, can start doing today to improve customer experience?
Communication. You hear that when people talk about couples, like, oh, communication is the key, but it is communication, actually. You can't run away from that. You must close that communication gap in terms of, and I'm glad we've talked about that, not just in terms of speed, but in terms of resolution. You also want to, when you're responding to things, respond faster. You want to make sure that you are setting clear expectations. You also want to keep customers informed. So trust is a currency that obviously will be built and can be built, but it is built on reliability. So you have to be reliable and people have to trust you, and you would have to build that over time. And in keeping customers informed and involved, informed is whether good or bad, keep them informed. Something happened to your delivery or did not happen, keep them informed. And I saw the funniest thing yesterday I think so much happened yesterday that I saw quite a bit of information. Yes, I don't know. I think I was on the road a bit too much and I was just reading up stuff. And I saw this about Shein. And Shein is a very funny and a very audacious brand that we're seeing take over the market. I mean, it's fast fashion, but hey, it is what it is, right? And somebody said, first of all, Shein is very overstimulating when you go into the app. It's the same thing with Timo and Alibaba and all of those. But they will send you so many messages across the entire time. So from the time when it is being packed to the time when it is being stamped, and somebody wrote something funny to someone sewing in your final stitch, that's how much they will communicate. If something is delayed, you would get that message to say it is delayed. They will message you until the point where it gets to your door. So clear communication is something you cannot run away from, and it is one of the easiest things to implement ASAP. Now, you can introduce a bot into to make that quicker and faster, but there are nuances to conversations that bots do not understand. But in creating and introducing a bot, there must be an outlet to a human that you can quickly go from talking to a bot to going to talk to a human as quickly as possible. So that's one of the quickest things you can implement is communication. Make it easier, make it faster. Communicate whether good or bad, and make sure in communicating you are building trust and you are building reliability.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Bisola, it's really a pleasure having this conversation. Thank you for the load of
Sure.
insight you have shared. Thank you so much. So, Abisola, how can my audience connect with you? How can they reach out to you? How can they do business with you? And where is the best platform?
So I do have a website. It's abisolafagbiye.com. So my name is spelled ABISOLAFAGBIYE. And I'm pretty much the same on every platform. I just got on TikTok, which is very interesting for me. So literally a few weeks ago, I am brand new on that platform. I don't think I'm up to a month there, maybe just about a month. So yes, I am on that. I'm on LinkedIn. again, Abisola Fagbiye. I'm on Instagram, Abisola Fagbiye. And those are the easiest ways to reach out to me. Any of those have messaging opportunities or little message icons that you can actually drop me a message. Happy to respond. So those are the platforms that I can be reached on.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Abisola. And definitely the link is going to be on the show notes for my audience to reach out. Abisola, yeah, thank you for the clarity and depth you have shared with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you. So your perspective on CS, productivity, and bring real values to everyone, especially building a service-focused business. To my audience, if you want to learn more about her work, visit Abisola Fagbiye. Thanks for joining the Aro Benaiah Show, and see you in the next episode. It's really a pleasure having.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah.